I never planned to become the kind of man mothers warn their sons about. I just wanted a room where the walls didn't shake every time someone screamed downstairs. Golden light from the chandelier spills over my bed, over the silk sheets, over the ugly scar that cuts across my face like a question God never answered. The house is quiet, too quiet for a house this big. Out in the hall, men with guns are pretending not to be afraid of me. Inside this room, it's just my heartbeat, the ticking clock, and the plan that might finally tell me if there is even one honest soul left in my life. People think power makes you feel safe. In my world, power is just a brighter light that shows you every knife pointed at your back. I'm called Don now Jefe, boss, but when I close my eyes, I still see a little boy counting the seconds between the sounds of his father's footsteps on the stairs, praying he'd be the one walking in and not the men who came when someone disappeared a debt. My father worked nights for people nobody named out loud until the night he didn't come home at all. That was the first lesson. In this life, loyalty is just a story people tell until the money on the table is big enough. The second lesson came much later in this same house on this same bed with blood soaking these same sheets. 2 bullets, one in the shoulder, one kissing my ribs, fired by a cousin I had raised like my own brother. The doctors patched me up, the traitor vanished, my men took care of the rest, but something inside me stayed open, bleeding in a place no surgeon could reach. Since that night I stopped sleeping like a human being. I sleep like a hunted animal, one ear always awake. Maybe that's why, when the new maid arrived 3 weeks ago, I studied her like an enemy instead of an employee. I saw her first through the half-open door of my office. She stood in the marble hallway, hands clasped, clutching a worn leather bag that didn't match the gold of the house. Her uniform was too big for her, sleeves rolled up, black hair twisted into a bun that kept trying to escape. She tried not to stare at the crystal stairs, the oil paintings, the silent bodyguards. But her eyes went soft when she noticed the old housekeeper limping, when she saw one of my men hiding a cough. Compassion in this place, a dangerous thing to carry. Name, I asked, stepping out. She jumped, then straightened. Elena, senor. Her voice wasn't polished like the marble. It was simple, respectful, but there was a firmness inside it, not defiant, just unbroken. My right-hand man, Marco, had already briefed me. Widowed mother, small apartment, younger brother with sick lungs, no criminal record, no debts, at least none on paper. The kind of woman my world usually crushes without even noticing. I watched her eyes flick to the tattoo on my hand, the ring on my finger that only means one thing in this city. She knew who I was. Her throat moved, a small swallow of fear, but she didn't look away. You will clean this floor, this wing, and my room, I said. You see something you don't, you hear something you didn't, understood. She, senor, she answered, no tremble, just a quiet acceptance, like she'd already lived with worse. I turned my back on her, but in the reflection of the corridor mirror I saw it. She glanced at the thick envelope Marco slipped into my hand, then looked down at her own empty fingers. For a second, a very human hunger crossed her face. Fear, hope, the weight of all the bills waiting at home. Then she lowered her eyes like she was ashamed of even wanting more. That tiny flicker stayed with me all day. By nightfall, Marco came into my study, jaw tight. Boss, you're still thinking about the girl. I didn't answer. I poured myself a drink instead, the ice clinking against crystal, the city lights burning below like 1,000 small fires. Don't let the innocent face fool you, he went on. The last maid stole diamonds from your safe. Before that, the driver sold your roots to the police. The governess tried to run with the kid. You're too soft with these people. I looked up slowly. Soft, I repeated. The word tasted like rust in my mouth. He wasn't completely wrong. Nobody became what I am by being soft, but I pay for funerals when I don't have to. I send anonymous money to widows whose husbands died because of my orders. I fire instead of kill the men who only make small mistakes. There is a part of me that still believes in kindness. I just don't know if it belongs in this life anymore. Everyone has a price, Marco said. Better we find hers before our enemies do. That night those words wouldn't leave me. Everyone has a price. I stared at the city, at the black river cutting through the lights, and I thought about my father, my cousin, the blood, the lies. I thought about Elena's eyes when she saw the old housekeeper limp. Not everyone, I wanted to argue, not always, not forever, but I had no proof. So I decided to make some. The plan was simple, cruel, and clean, just like the jobs I order on strangers. Tomorrow I would be too tired after the meeting with the Russian. I'd let the doctor give me something that would make me drowsy but not fully out. I would lie in my bed, eyes closed, breathing slow. On the nightstand I'd leave my watch, a piece worth more than most houses in Elena's neighborhood. In the drawer, slightly open, a stack of fresh bills, pocket money for betrayal. And then I would see. If she was like the rest, she'd look around, check the cameras, and take what she could. Money, watch, maybe even the documents on my desk. It would be over quickly. I'd have Marco fire her, send her far away, maybe something worse if the papers she touched were too sensitive. But if she didn't, if she passed this test, I didn't know what I would do with that possibility, and that scared me more than anything. The next evening, the house smelled of expensive cologne and gun oil. The meeting was over, the Russians gone, my men relieved but pretending not to be. I lay down on the massive bed, silk cool against my skin, shoulder still aching from old wounds. The doctor's injection made my body heavy, but my mind stayed sharp, hovering just behind my closed eyes. Remember, I told Marco before he left the room, no one comes in except the maid. No guards inside, no cameras in here. If she fails, I'll know. If she passes, I'll also know. He frowned. Boss, this is not necessary. We can just do as I say. I cut in. Power doesn't sound loud. Real power is quiet and final. The lights were dimmed, leaving only the warm glow of the bedside lamp. On the table, the gold watch gleamed like a small sun. The drawer was open just enough for a few crisp bills to show. I placed my hand lightly over my chest, letting my fingers rest where the bullet scar still burns on cold nights. The door clicked softly as Marco left. The silence closed around me like water. I focused on my breathing, slow, even the way a sleeping man breathes who trusts the walls around him. I have not trusted walls in 20 years, but for this test, I pretended. For this one woman, I decided to lower my guard just enough to see if the world still contained anything pure. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time felt thick. Distantly, I heard footsteps in the corridor, softer than a man's, lighter, careful. The kind of steps of someone who knows one wrong sound could change their whole life. The doorknob turned with a hushed metal sigh. The door opened. Warm hallway light spilled into the dark of my room, and with it, the faint scent of cheap soap and something floral, something gentle that did not belong in a house built on fear. The footsteps came closer, slow, almost apologetic, then stopped right beside my bed. I kept my eyes closed, muscles loose, heart suddenly pounding too loud in my ears. In that fragile silence, with her standing over me, my watch shining within her reach and my life in her hands without her even knowing it, I realized I was more afraid of what she might choose in the next few seconds than of any bullet I had ever faced. The test. Her shadow falls over my face before her scent reaches me, cheap soap, faint jasmine, the smell of someone who works too hard and rests too little. She stands very still. I can feel it. The air around the bed tightens with her hesitation. The mattress dips just slightly as she leans closer. A breath escapes her, soft and shaky, so close to my ear I almost turn my head. I force my muscles to stay heavy. My eyelids burn with the effort of keeping them closed. Senor, she whispers, almost to herself like she isn't sure if I'm fully asleep. My name doesn't come out with fear. It comes out with something heavier, like she's tasting the word that has been haunting the city since before she ever set foot in this house. She moves around the bed, the fabric of her uniform brushing the silk sheets. Something glass touches wood, the faint clink of the water I left on the nightstand. She adjusts it, wipes the ring it left, the way only someone who has cleaned tables their whole life does, quick, efficient, invisible. Then she freezes. I know exactly where her eyes have landed. The watch, gold, heavy, absurdly bright in the low light. I feel her presence hover over it. The room goes silent except for her breathing and the slow, fake rhythm of mine. Her breath changes. It grows shorter, tighter at the top, the way someone breathes when they're doing math inside their head. Hospital bills, rent, food, brother's medicine. One watch like that could turn her whole life around. Seconds stretch, my heart kicks too fast, I'm terrified she'll hear it. If she takes it, I tell myself nothing changes. The world stays exactly as I know it, rotten, predictable. If she doesn't, I don't finish the thought. A soft fabric rustles. A drawer slides quietly. She's found the money I forgot to close away. Bills peek out fresh, arrogant. I imagine her fingers hovering right above them. But she still doesn't touch anything. Instead, something cool and damp presses gently against my forehead. I almost open my eyes. A cloth, she's wiping my face. The smell of clean water and worn cotton mixes with my cologne. The cloth travels slowly from my brow to my temple, careful, almost apologetic each time it brushes the edge of my scar. The contact is light, but to a man who usually only feels skin in the form of punches and desperate hands, it might as well be fire. Siempre con estas marcas, she murmurs under her breath, always with these marks. How many times have they tried to kill you? Her accent wraps around the words, soft but bitter. She doesn't know I can hear every syllable. The cloth moves lower, along the line the knife once carved down my cheek. She pauses there. I feel her thumb hesitate, as if she wants to trace the old wound with her skin instead of the towel. She doesn't, but the intention is enough to make something in my chest twist. People say you don't feel anything, she goes on quietly, voice barely above the ticking clock. Que eres un monstruo, but monsters don't bleed like this. The way she says it, it's not a compliment, it's an observation, a tired truth. Monster or not, I'm still made of the same fragile flesh that has ruined her life more than once. She brushes the cloth down to my neck where another scar hides beneath my robe. Her fingers accidentally graze my throat. My pulse jumps under her touch. She pulls back quickly, a small gasp escaping her, then forces herself to continue as if nothing happened. As she works, I feel the sheet shift over my chest, her hand carefully pulling it higher, tucking it around my sides the way my mother used to do when I was a boy who still believed in ordinary futures. The faint sound of her knees pressing into the mattress tells me she's leaning closer over me now. You look different when you're not shouting, she whispers, talking to the man she thinks is unconscious. You look tired. If she knew how tired, she'd run. The cloth returns to my face, slower this time. She studies me in silence. I can feel her gaze like a second weight on my skin. Then she does something I did not expect. She sighs long and sad, as if she sees something disappointing in me. Not the monster the city fears, not the legend, just a man who made himself into a cage and locked others inside with him. My brother says men like you are already dead, she says quietly, wringing the cloth into the bowl. Walking ghosts, I don't know if he's right, but if you were truly dead, you wouldn't flinch in your sleep. I curse myself in my head. I must have moved just a fraction when the wet cloth touched an old bullet scar. Her fingers hover there again, just above my ribs, where the skin sinks in slightly. She presses the cloth there with extreme gentleness, as if touching a sacred wound. For a second, the air between us feels crowded with ghosts. My father, my cousin, the men I've buried. She leans closer, her voice dropping even lower. Who hurt you like this, senor? Was it the same type of men you became? The questions hang over me like smoke. I can't answer, I won't. The cloth leaves my body. I hear her stand, the soft creak of the bed as her weight disappears. Her footsteps circle back to the nightstand. The lamp clicks. The light shifts brighter now, painting orange behind my eyelids. Her breath catches again. She's looking at the money, at the watch. This is the moment I designed, the temptation at arm's reach, the door closed, no witnesses, a world that has never rewarded honesty stands on one side of her choice, her brother's lungs gasping in some small, damp apartment on the other. Her fingers brush the wood of the drawer. I hear the faint paper sound of bills moving. And then the drawer slides open just a little bit wider. The line she would cross. The rasp of wood on wood is so quiet I almost think I imagined it. But no, the drawer is open wider now. I can feel the cold breath of air from inside, the space where temptation lives. Paper whispers against paper. She is touching the money. Heat climbs up my neck into my face. My fingers tingle with the urge to move, to grab her wrist, to call Marco, to prove myself right about the world again. I force my hand to stay limp on the blanket. This is what you wanted, I remind myself. Proof, one way or the other. Her breath comes faster, shallow and nervous. She does not move like a practiced thief. There is nothing smooth in the way her fingers tremble over the bills. Madre de Dios, she murmurs under her breath. Cuánto dinero. So much money. A bill slides, the sharp little snap of crisp paper bending. My stomach drops as if someone cut the floor out from under me. I see the line in my head. Another person failing, another small hope dying. Of course she. Don't be stupid, Elena, she whispers suddenly, voice breaking in the middle of her own name. Don't be like them say you are. Her hand lingers there. I can picture it perfectly without seeing. Fingers thin from work, nails short and clean, hovering over enough cash to buy a few months of medicine, maybe a year's worth of rent. You know what this is, she goes on, talking to herself, to the air, to the unconscious monster in the bed. They leave it where you can see, they wait. Then they call you ladrona and throw you back on the street. They always do this with the poor. The word poor hits me harder than thief ever could. It is not an insult, it is a sentence. Slowly, so slowly the sound is almost nothing, she pushes the bills back into the drawer. The slide of her knuckles against the wood is loud in my ears because I am listening for it like a man listens for a last breath. The money settles with a soft thud, no bills are taken. But she doesn't close the drawer. Her hand stays inside. I hear the faint rustle of fabric, the tiny clink of metal against wood. My brain races. What is she doing? I'm not stealing from you, she says under her breath, every word careful, controlled. I just need to know something. She exhales shakily, like someone stepping onto ice. How many lives did you buy with this, senor? How many did you break? It's not really a question, it's a wound speaking to a wound. There is a moment of complete silence, like the whole room is holding its breath alongside us. Then at last the drawer closes, firm this time, all the way. She even gives it a small extra push, as if she wants to erase the carelessness that left it open in the first place. Rich people, she mutters, almost annoyed. You sleep with drawers open like this and then blame the maid when something is missing. I feel something close to a laugh push up inside my chest, strangled and bitter. She's right, I do. Her attention turns to the watch. I feel, more than hear, the way her body leans toward the small weight of gold on the nightstand. She sighs as if its shine hurts her eyes. One of these, she whispers, and my brother would never run out of air again. That sentence sits on my chest heavier than any bullet. I knew about the brother, about the bad lungs, about the hospital visits. I did not know how closely her hope had wrapped itself around something like this watch, around wealth that does not care if she lives or dies. Her fingertip brushes the metal. I feel the bed vibrate with that tiny movement. I can picture her eyes closing for a second, imagining what that money could do, the way hungry people imagine full tables. Then something shifts inside her. I can't see it, but I can hear it in her voice. No, she tells herself, firm now. If I buy his next breath with stolen money, what will I teach him? To become the same animals who made me clean their blood from the floor. Her words hit too close. They land in rooms inside me I've kept locked for years. The mattress rustles as she reaches into the pocket of her apron. There's a tiny, delicate sound of metal sliding against skin. When she speaks again, her voice is lower, almost breaking. I already sold everything else, she says, more to the darkness than to me. Earrings, bracelets, all of it. You're the last thing I have from him. From him? I know that tone, widow. The file said it, but hearing it in her voice is different. It comes rounded with grief, with stubborn daily survival. There is a pause, heavy enough to fill the room, and then a small clink as she places something on the nightstand. I risk the tiniest movement of my eyelids, just enough to let in a razor-thin slice of light. On the table beside my ridiculous gold watch lies a simple silver ring, plain, worn, a little scratched at the edges, the kind of ring you buy with saved tips and big dreams, her wedding ring. She slides it toward the edge of the nightstand, closer to the watch, like an offering. Here, she breathes, for you, or for God, I don't know anymore. Her fingers linger on the ring, caressing it once, as if saying goodbye. I'm not taking your money, she continues, but if one day if I can't carry my brother's hospital bills anymore, if hunger makes me crazy, then maybe I'll come back for you. She gives the smallest, sad little laugh, and until then I won't wear this. I don't deserve to if I even think about stealing. The logic is twisted, pure and brutal all at once. In my world, when someone takes something, they leave nothing. No apology, no collateral, no wedding ring standing guard over a rich man's toys. My throat tightens. I swallow it down, careful not to move. She pushes the watch away from the edge of the table, tucking it beside the lamp, half hidden in the shadow. Protective, not of herself but of me, of a man she has every reason to hate. You should not leave things like this where desperate people can see them, she scolds quietly. Even good hearts get tired when the stomach is empty. She straightens the lamp, wipes the table again, working her anger and fear into the polished strokes. Then from her pocket she pulls out something else. I can't see it clearly, only the outline in the warm light. It's a small, folded card, edges soft and bent from years of fingers. She opens it once, looks at it and kisses the corner. Then she slips it underneath my watch, half hidden but there. Santa Marta, she murmurs, protect those who walk in darkness even if they choose it. She is praying for me. For me. No one has spoken a blessing over my name since my mother died. Priests refused to bury the men I ordered into the ground. Wives cursed me. Mothers spat at my car. I am used to rage. I understand fear. But this woman in my room on my peril is leaving her dead husband's ring and her only saint's card beside a man she believes is too far gone. You are someone's son too, she says softly. Maybe she is not here, but I will ask God for you, not because you deserve it, because I need to believe we are not all lost. The words slice through me cleanly, like a blade through silk. The room falls quiet again. She adjusts my blanket one last time, tucking it under my arm to keep out a chill I would never admit to feeling. Her hand pauses on my wrist, light as a feather, as if testing my pulse. You're not sleeping well, she notes, a small frown in her voice. Too much blood in your dreams, If only she knew. She steps back from the bed. Her shoes tap softly on the floor as she moves toward the window, draws the curtains just enough to keep the city's neon from cutting across my face. The house feels wrapped, held, in a way I have never allowed it to be. Then, just as I think she is about to leave, the doorknob rattles. Her breath catches, a different kind of fear enters the room, sharp and electric. Is everything okay, Elena? Marco's voice comes through the door, low and suspicious. He hasn't woken. I feel her straighten, the air around her is suddenly hard, braced. Yes, senor, she answers, and now there is a new weight in her tone, protective, steel under silk. He's sleeping, he should not be disturbed. Marco doesn't move away. The metal of the knob trembles again, like his hand is still on it, thinking. I'll just take a quick look, he says, orders. The handle starts to turn. And as the door begins to push inward, I feel the mattress dip again. Elena rushing back to my side, one hand landing on my chest, the other gripping the blanket, as if she's ready to shield a man she should probably be running from. If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments what you would have done in Elena's place. Don't leave yet, hit subscribe, and watch the next story on your screen for another powerful lesson.